All right, today we're jumping into a refreshingly simple, no nonsense investment strategy. It's all about hitting one very specific and, let's be honest, very attractive goal. So let's get right to it. So let's just start with the big question from our source material. Does this sound like you? Are you just looking for a steady, powerful return without all the headache of day trading and trying to time the market? Well, if that's you, you're definitely in the right place. So here's the game plan. First up, we'll define that 15% goal and talk about the vehicles that can get us there. Then we'll dive into the simple step-by-step strategy itself. After that, and this is super important, we'll get into the mindset you absolutely need to have. Then we'll cover the practical side of investing from China. And finally, we'll talk about the core conviction you need to just get started. Okay, so that 15% goal, how do we even get there? Well, the strategy is built on two of the biggest powerhouses in the global economy, the Nasdaq 100 and the S&P 500. Think of it this way. The Nasdaq gives you that cutting-edge tech and growth, while the S&P 500 gives you a broad, stable foundation across the whole U.S. economy. It's a one-two punch of growth and stability. And here's the best part. What really makes this a game changer for so many people? You don't need to jump through hoops to set up some complicated overseas brokerage account. You can tap into these U.S. markets using platforms you probably already use every day. This is possible because of something called QDII funds, which is just a fancy way of saying they're a government-approved bridge that lets your money invest in foreign markets right from home. All right, let's get to the good stuff, the heart of the strategy. This isn't just theory. This is your step-by-step action plan that you can literally start using today. But hold on, before we even dream about returns, we have to talk about safety. I mean it. The absolute first step, the non-negotiable foundation for this whole thing, is building an emergency fund. This is your financial seatbelt. You don't start the car until it's buckled. So how big does that safety net need to be? Well, the source gives some really clear guidelines depending on where you are in life. If you're a young worker with a steady paycheck, you're aiming for about 1 to 2 years of living expenses set aside. But if you're retired and living off your nest egg, you need a much, much bigger cushion. We're talking 5 to 10 years worth. Okay, once that safety net is in place, it's go time. The investment plan itself is super straightforward. Step 1, you've secured your emergency fund, so check that box. For step 2, you take a big chunk, more than half, of your remaining investable money and put it in all at once. Just get it in the market and working for you. For step 3, you take the rest of that money and you invest it slowly, week by week. This is called dollar cost averaging, and it just smooths out your ride into the market. And finally, step 4 is all about making this a habit. Any extra money you have each month, it goes right in. You just keep building. Look, having a plan is easy. Sticking to it, that's the hard part. This next section is all about winning the mental game, because according to our source, this is where most people trip up. And our source material has a great name for these distractions: demons. They are everywhere. You'll hear people yelling about market bubbles, about the next big crash, the next recession. You'll see experts on TV telling you to sell everything. You have to understand, all of it is just noise designed to make you scared and knock you off your long-term plan. So how do you fight those demons? With this simple, powerful mantra. This is the core philosophy. A small drop in the market, don't even look at it. A big drop, don't panic, that's a sale. You get to buy your favorite investments at a discount. Got some extra cash? Buy more. The only thing you don't do is sell out of fear. Simple as that. Okay, let's bring this home and talk about the nuts and bolts for anyone investing from within China. There are a few unique things to think about, and our source tackles the single biggest question that always comes up. And here it is, the big one, the question that I know is on a lot of your minds. When you buy these US-focused funds locally, you often have to pay a little extra, a premium. It feels like you're overpaying. So what do you do about that? The advice from our source on this is about as direct as it gets. And honestly, this might be the most important thing for domestic investors to hear. You ready? Ignore the premium. Seriously, trying to time your entry perfectly, waiting for that premium to disappear, you're just wasting your most valuable asset, which is time in the market. The real cost isn't that tiny premium. It's the weeks or months or even years of potential growth you lose while you're sitting on the sidelines waiting. So you've got to reframe it in your head. The premium isn't a penalty. Think of it as a small entry fee for getting access to one of the world's most powerful growth engines. Over a decade or more of compounding returns, that little upfront cost is going to look like a rounding error. Okay, so why should you ignore it? The source lays out 3 rock-solid reasons. First, these premiums are just a normal feature of the market because of currency controls. They aren't going away anytime soon. Second, the tax advantage is absolutely massive, and it blows the premium out of the water. And third, you're basically arbitraging your life. You're earning returns based on the high-powered US economy while living somewhere with a different cost structure. That's a huge win. And let's just double-click on that tax advantage for a second, because this is huge. Right now, there is no capital gains tax on these kinds of investments in China. That's like getting a 20 to 30% head start compared to an investor in the US. When you see a number that big, a tiny little premium at the start really doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? So, all of this, the strategy, the mindset, it all comes down to one final core belief. This is the ultimate conviction you need, not just to start, but to actually see this through to the finish line. And here it is. This is the fundamental bet you are making. The whole strategy boils down to this single, simple idea. If you believe that over the long haul, the US economy and its market will continue to innovate and grow and eventually hit new highs, then making money isn't a question of if, it's only a question of when. And that leaves us with the final, powerful call to action from our source material. Not tomorrow. Not next week when things calm down. Not when the market looks better. The time to start building your future is right now. Because time, well, time is the one thing you can never, ever get back.